Okay, recording this video is Sunday 29th of April 2012, Sunday morning here in Sydney, Australia. I hope you're having a good weekend. And thought I'd do a little bit of a chart roundup this weekend. Thursday, Friday actually took off, didn't trade either day. Watched the market open, which was quite nice, but just sometimes get a little bit burned out. Didn't feel like trading, so didn't want to push it. Anyway, there were some good setups though. I'll just show you on the 1500 tip bar charts. This is Friday's activity, that's Thursday night's activity. And this is Thursday day's activity, and here's Wednesday night into Thursday on the open. So we had pullback to end of trend, exhaustion, selling, and first bullish divergence marking the bottom here. I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, be careful of these prior the open. Usually the professionals are looking for the full liquidity of the open market to reverse the market, but in fact this kind of worked out really nicely before the open. And the setup, the best setup, I think if you're trading the first 45 minutes or so of the day was this little gathering pattern here. Gathering is what I called a whole bunch of blue professional bars happening on the 500 and the 1500 tip bar chart, and they're kind of in anticipation of a breakout. And you can see here that resistance becomes support. We have these blue professional bars kind of come in here and we kind of break away to the upside. We actually test back down with a little amateur down bar. Again, the resistance comes support level, holds, and we keep on going forward. If you back it down to the 500 tip bar chart, let me just show you that. On the 500 tip bar chart, that little retrace there was happening with Rambo patterns. We kind of exhausted our sellers at that point. Bullish divergence kind of comes in. We test again, little Rambo pattern here, holds, and we kind of break to the upside here. There we go. On the 4500 tip bar chart, again, you can see it was after the open, all these blue professional bars kind of coming in. The lows don't get broken, the highs get broken, we go for an upside move. What was interesting is through as that day kind of progressed, you can see that again one of my potential reversal patterns, so exhaustion buying, bearish divergence comes in just around 11 o'clock in the morning, and we start to sell off, and I say that's kind of the window where we've got this opportunity to sell off. But you can see it's all the amateurs leading that sell off, all these Rambo patterns, amateur down bars, kind of expecting a breakdown below 88, and no, just the market wants to hold. Someone decides to take it back up and we go into an exhaustion pattern during Thursday's trade. Then on Thursday night's trade coming into Friday, we'd set up with a pullback to end of trend, exhaustion buying marks the top of this move. Again, another one of these that happens before the open. I say watch out. It's not open till it's not over till the open has happened. We get the full liquidity of the open market, but it was enough to kind of reverse this market. But the reversal trade kind of set up like this. So exhaustion selling on a left shoulder, bullish divergence comes in on 1500 tip bar chart. We got pullback, dirty end of trend, just like we violate the market so strong we violate the pullback level, come back to that support level. All these blue professional bars coming into those lows there, and we go for a breakaway move to the upside here. Let me just show you kind of backing it down to the 500 tip bar chart here at that same point. The low of the market was nicely marked by pullback to end of trend. We'd had exhaustion selling, first bullish divergence, flush patterns, and so on. And then you can see as we're testing these lows down here at this end of trend level, Rambo patterns come in, Rambo patterns kind of come in, and then the market kind of breaks to the upside. The 4500 tip bar chart just shows these Rambo patterns again at that lows, so this uptrend was not over. But what was interesting is coming into the highs of that day, so up at 1402, 1403, it was exhaustion buying, Rambo patterns right there. That's very unstable, so that's amateurs buying an expectation of a breakout to new highs. They run out of steam, exhaustion buying, and the market reverses. And so on the 1500 tip bar chart, look at this, all these exhaustion buying signals, Rambo patterns leading the way up. Just that's not going to work, and then the market kind of tops out, kind of turns around, goes the other way. So there were some nice kind of little setups to be had the last couple of days, but as I said, just took the time off and didn't trade them. Now, so where are we? We're definitely in an uptrend, but I see some weakness coming for Monday and then some kind of blow-off move. The equities is always going to be a little bit ahead of everything kind of else, and in some ways the bonds are almost kind of leading the equities by a couple of weeks. And I know we've had a whole bunch of strength on Friday with a whole bunch of charts, British pound, Aussie dollars, to some extent euro. I'll go through those and show you those, but I just think it's really suspect, and over the next 2 weeks just watch out that we'll just not kind of top out and go for a bit of a decline. So, in terms of trend line chart, yep, we've broken above the upper trend line. Now we're in a trend line on this chart, and we go down to better X trend, same thing. The support levels have come in on better X trend. We're kind of testing up to new highs. I could easily see us just kind of break to new highs on an exhaustion type pattern and then kind of reverse and go the other way. The trend systems have flicked the other way, so we're in a buy kind of cycle here, but it's pretty weak in terms of the trend oscillator, and I think on Monday we'll have some weakness, and I'll show you why. And in terms of the indices, so we've got these cyclical patterns on the daily chart that are said we're likely to start lining up, and you can see them happening on a whole bunch of the indices charts. So this is the Dow. You can see we've got resistance, cyclical resistance due at some point, so that'll kind of go off in the next couple of days. This is the Russell. No volume on the Russell index, so that's why better momentum doesn't show here, and we're a day or two away from finding that resistance point there, having had our pullback to end of trend. This is the S&P 500, same thing, coming up to that resistance point, so that's going to go off over the next few days. Nasdaq a little bit further away, got a few more days to travel here in terms of pullback to end of trend, but that's all kind of lining up on all those charts. This week's really important. And when we go down, I've said, so this is the daily chart of the E-mini, same thing, pullback to end of trend with that cyclical point happening there, but we're going to see that happen at the same point as we'll get pullback to end of trend on the 45-minute chart. So you go down a couple of time frames to look for trend moves, and we've had our exhaustion, selling, bullish divergence on the 45-minute chart. We've not seen exhaustion, buying, and so on. I think we're going to get some weakness on Monday, and at some point we'll have pullback to end of trend sequence on this 45-minute chart, and look for that kind of blow off exhaustion on this chart. Here's the reason why I think we'll have that weakness on Monday. So the 45-minute chart is quite similar to the 40,500 tip bar chart, so we're in this uptrend here. This is exhaustion buying getting this move going, so we need that kind of exhaustion buying to end this move. But go back down one time frame to the 13,500 time frame. This is Friday's activity. We had a pullback to end of trend sequence on Friday, second cyclical turn after end of trend. All these blue professional bars kind of come in. We know that all that activity kind of up at that 1402, 1403 level was all kind of amateur blow off activity. So because we've had this on the 13,500 tip bar chart, I think we're going to play down on Monday till we get a support level, which we have pulled back in an uptrend kind of support level on the 40,500 tip bar chart. So that's what I'd be looking for on Monday. But then, continuation into some kind of blow-off move later in the week. And the reason for so here's another chart just showing. I think inherently we've got to really watch out. This is the commitment of traders numbers. I use the S&P index on the commitment of traders numbers just because the commitment of traders numbers on the E-mini market. The E-mini market is almost like a purely day trading market, so commitment of traders doesn't show you kind of long-term patterns, whereas the SP symbol does show you those long-term patterns that professionals are trading in terms of commitment of traders here. And this is what happened this week. I've been talking about this. You can reference back a couple of weekends ago when I talked about commitment of traders in some detail. I flip the numbers upside down. I calculate the percentage that the professionals are long or short, and then kind of flip it upside down because I find that helps more in terms of direction. And you can see we went to -3 with this last week's activity, and we're setting up for one of these crash warning signals. So if we make break to new highs this week and this kind of continues down at this type of level on the commitment of traders number here, we're setting up for one of these kind of crash warnings. So wait and see. It's not happened yet, but just you can see the bearish divergence that's kind of setting up in this chart. As we're kind of making new highs, it's just not being followed by this commitment of traders analysis. So breakouts that you saw in a whole bunch of markets kind of winding up Thursday into Friday this week, I think just I mean, they're going to go a little bit, but I just think they're suspect, so I'm just kind of being wary of them. One of them's so the currencies, Aussie dollar here, Aussie dollar kind of exhaustion selling, bullish divergence comes in, first bullish divergence comes in, and a flush pattern, and then we didn't quite make pullback to end of trend. It was so strong, the Aussie dollar, we just broke through that pullback level on this daily chart into a little bit of an uptrend here, so we're at 104. So, and a whole bunch of currencies kind of the same thing. So for me, it's a question of how far this is going to run, whether this is kind of to be believed, and if the professionals kind of step in at some point and take profits, and we never get through kind of 108, 110 kind of down here. On the weekly chart, a weekly support level's coming in. This you'll see on a whole bunch of charts. So I've got to be careful that it has kind of come in here. I'm just expecting it to be fairly weak because we've had exhaustion buying. First bearish divergence kind of come in here as we're testing these highs. That's why I think it's going to be a little bit suspect. Although it looks strong, I think these things are a little bit suspect. So let me just show you as I'm going through here. So pound. Pound's been very strong here. We'd had our exhaustion selling, first bullish divergence, and the flush pattern marked this bottom down here, and you can see all of these blue professional bars kind of come in at 57, 157. We test with the Rambo pattern. Again, this is why I color my Rambo patterns and amateur bars and flush patterns all as yellows. They're using three totally different algorithms, but all identifying the same thing, kind of amateur activity, trying to buy a breakdown to new lows and flushing out those sellers at that point, and we kind of rally from there. And then you can see here the last few days, last week into this week, this is jumping the creek, blue professional bars kind of buying in here, kind of extreme activity, and we broke above resistance point here on the pound. And the strength in the pound, as you can actually see in the commitment of traders numbers. Let me just show you that really quickly. Here we go, commitment of traders numbers on the pound. And you can see, unlike some of the other commitment of traders numbers, been really, as we've been making this bottom, the professionals have been reversing their positions, getting ready for that breakout. So that's why the pound's been strong, and I think they're kind of backing off quantitative easing, and so that's why I've got strength in the pound. Euro, just talking this week about, could see the euro kind of breaking out, and on the daily chart we've got this resistance level kind of come in with Friday's activity, and we're just itching to break above that, above 133. These blue professional bars are holding, and on the weekly chart, I don't think we're going to make that support level there. I just think we're going to go test up at this point. And so the dollar index is the reverse of that. On the daily chart, the support level, cyclical support levels kind of come in, and we could easily see that breaking down, having had our exhaustion buying, bearish divergence, amateur bars kind of coming into this cyclical resistance, kind of going down. On the weekly chart, cyclical weakness, cyclical resistance has come in, and so we're going to get a swing down in weakness here on the dollar index chart. And so you'd expect some strength in gold, which is what we got. Gold is kind of anti-dollar. So daily chart of gold, we've had our exhaustion buying, first bullish divergence, and a flush pattern here. Kind of come in, this low is holding at kind of 1660 type levels, kind of breaking back up. And on the weekly chart, we've just had the weekly support level kind of come in here. Silver's a little bit weaker, I think. Similar pattern, exhaustion selling, bullish divergence, flush pattern, kind of holding those lows. Blue professional bars kind of come in here, and we're holding there. We've kind of broken up with an amateur bar, not necessarily good. On the weekly chart, we've not printed that cyclical weekly support level, but it's extremely close to kind of coming in there. Crude, this breakout, just watch out for this, because crude is, we've had exhaustion buying, bearish divergence, and a flush button here, and this strength in crude that we've had lately is amateur up bars into this support, potentially becomes resistance. We got on the daily chart a cyclical turning level, a turning point kind of due. We could easily just kind of coast over, just roll over at this point here. So just because this could turn into a trend move on the way down, because these are amateur up bars into that pullback in a downtrend level. So let's wait and see on crude. And on the weekly chart, just think, because we've had these kind of patterns, crude's kind of weaker. And then copper bottomed with all these blue professional bars, first bullish divergence, but Friday's activity, and we're coming into a cyclical resistance here, was amateur up bar at this point, so a little bit suspect there. And on the weekly chart, we've had this big kind of topping out move with exhaustion buying and so on. So those blue professional bars seemingly have held at this moment, but I'm wary just of that amateur bar kind of heading up at that point there. and lastly bonds. So the bond market. On the daily chart, we're in an uptrend here. Friday's activity kind of broke to new highs and kind of closed on the lows. You can see there a very weak kind of close here after bearish divergence kind of comes in here. So I could see the bonds maybe selling off until we find support, cyclical support here, which is where we'd get a correction in the equities markets and the bond market would start to take off again. On the weekly chart, we're still in an uptrend here. Pull back to end of trend got to make on the weekly charts. It's just a question of kind of timing there, and this is where I'm saying the bond market's a little bit ahead of the equities market potentially. People rolling into bonds in anticipation of weakness in equities. So I'm a little bit kind of torn between market topping out and there's the strength that we're seeing in all these markets on the FX markets and so on. I just think that we're still in an uptrend. Better X trend is showing that, just as a something to kind of focus on. This level is really important, and I think we're in the process of kind of just topping out in terms of this move, and I think we'll break to new highs in that topping out effort. In terms of the strength in the market, if you look at the daily chart on the better momentum type readings, they're up at kind of 9 million, I think this is here, and the previous reading that we had on this exhaustion buying, on this blow-off kind of activity, we're at that same type of level. So it still means there's still some strength in the market, although we're coming up to this pullback to end of trend type level. So I think we're going to spend some time trying to figure out which way to go. So that we'll have a little bit of a run up in these kind of risk on markets as we're making that high. I suppose that's all I'm saying, is that the equities markets tends to move a little bit earlier than the rest, and so that's what I'm focusing on. And it's just interesting that the other markets kind of catching up and kind of breaking out and got kind of weekly support levels kind of coming in. So there's still, I think it still shows that correction is not imminent, but we're putting the things in place for a correction, particularly with those commitment of traders kind of activity. So there we go, a little bit of a longer video this weekend, but sometimes I get some good messages from people saying they kind of appreciate that kind of bigger term picture. I'm sorry it's not more kind of definitive in terms of its views, but from what I can see, I think Monday's going to be weak, and then we'll kind of Tuesday, Wednesday kind of rally into some kind of end of trend pattern on the daily chart. So that's what I'll be looking for. Enjoy your weekend and trade well next week.